Hi everyone, thank you for joining this session on how to digitize your expense management. My name is Martin Nekev. I'm a Senior Account Manager here at Equisys, and I'm joined today by Alistair Brooks, our Product Specialist here. Our company, Equisys, are the creators of Zetadocs Expenses, an expense management software designed specifically for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. We are delighted to have been invited by our partner, Dynamics Consultants, to present this session for you, during which we'll provide a demonstration of our solution and let you know about an exclusive offer available only to you as attendees. So no doubt you'll have your own reasons for considering a new expense management solution, whether it be to reduce the time spent and frustration of compiling expense reports each month, or inputting details of expenses into your Business Central system. We won't go into all the possible reasons for now, but we wanted to provide you with an overview of the value of Zetadocs Expenses provides for your finance team, for your sales team, for your field teams, and for approving managers. Firstly, it moves your expense management online. As soon as an employee incurs an expense, whether it be cash or mileage, they enter it into the Zetadocs Expenses app, along with a photo of the receipt, and then hit submit. This helps submitters to get paid quicker and reduces the hours spent each month end compiling a written report and trawling through paper receipts. It also offers approval on the go. Managers can approve expense claims on their phone or browser, allowing them to sign off expense reports while on the go in the office or working from home. Managers can also receive prompts when an employee's expense report is awaiting approval, which further facilitates rapid reimbursement whether in office or at home. Finance teams have visibility of each stage of an expense report. This helps identify where any possible errors occur and allows finance teams to chase appropriate people to ensure the monthly pay run is met on time. Finance teams can then export approved expense reports to Business Central. No rekeying is required as expenses are recorded as purchase invoices within vendor, GL dimension and tax codes already set. This saves time and reduces errors for finance teams. As this is all in the cloud with phone, tablet and browser apps, each stage is easy to do when working from home as when in the office. So now that I've outlined some of the functionality and some of the value offered, I'm going to pass you over to Alistair, who will show you all of this and more. So over to you, Alistair.
Thanks, Martin. So we'll just start things off with a demonstration. So the three personas that we're going to be working with today is David, who is a sales rep. He's out on the road and he hates the traditional process of storing paper receipts until the end of the month and then submitting them along with a paper form. When he does claim, he wants his money back urgently. I'll show you how you can add multiple cash and mileage expenses immediately using our Zetadocs Expenses app. His manager, Kevin, travels a lot, so he doesn't always have access to expense claims that land on his desk. He hates getting back to the office to find overdue approvals, and then going through the expenses is not one of his favorite jobs in the first place. I'll show you how Kevin can easily verify and approve all expense claims wherever he is. April is in the finance team and feels stressed by constantly having to chase overdue expense claims and trawling through receipts, forms, and spreadsheets. She's looking for a process that takes much less time and allows her to get on with her core work. I'll demonstrate how she can check, verify, and approve the expense claims that will be coming in regularly thanks to Zetadocs Expenses. I'll now jump into my demo environment to show you it in action.
From David's home screen, we can create a new expense report, or submit reports, and also view a bit of a summary about our expenses for the month. Going in to create a new expense, we just click on the new expense and then payment. Zetadocs will automatically populate today's date, but we can backdate this very easily just by clicking on the date field. And now we just need to pop in a bit of a description. So dinner with clients. Next up, we need to select the relevant vendor. This is the place that you've incurred the expense, not the vendor you've got set up within Business Central. As I type in the vendor that I've been to, Zetadocs will actually suggest places I've previously been or previously used as a vendor for quick and easy submission. We can now select the appropriate payment method, so whether or not it's a cash expense or a credit card expense. Selecting cash, we can now move on to selecting the appropriate currency. Zetadocs does support multi-currencies, so if your submitters are claiming in euros or pounds or US dollars, Zetadocs fully supports it. Let's put in a quick expense amount. Zetadocs Expenses does also fully support spending policies, so an example of which we can see here. Zetadocs is warning us that this particular spending violates some form of spending policy we've got internally. We do also have hard limits, so rather than this orange color, a red color will be displayed instead. The one we've got displayed here is just an example of a soft limit or a warning. Putting in the appropriate expense type, we can scroll up a little bit. Zetadocs allows you to itemize expenses to break them down into its respective parts quick and easily just by checking the button and breaking it down below. We can also put in any relevant notes that we may have for this particular expense claim. So for instance, we could have dinner with big client. And that's just provides the person who's approving the expense a little bit of context as to why we may be submitting this expense claim. Scrolling on a bit further, we can select the appropriate VAT rate, so whether or not it's no VAT or 20%. And then if we want to calculate out the VAT that we can reclaim for this particular expense, just tap the button and Zetadocs will calculate the VAT that you can reclaim for this expense automatically. Scrolling down further, we can apply any relevant dimensions or departments to this particular expense claim, and Zetadocs also supports jobs, tasks, and job task lines for these expenses as well. So if you want to use any of those, Zetadocs fully supports them. Now all we need to do is just add a receipt. To do so, just click the Add Receipt button, select Camera, and we can take a photo of the receipt that we have for this expense claim. Clicking Use Photo, Zetadocs will then upload the receipt to the expense. Clicking Save, we can now go on to create a new mileage expense. To do that, click New Expense, select Mileage, and then just like with the payment expense, Zetadocs will pre-populate today's date, allow us to put in a quick description, so trip to event. We can select the appropriate vehicle, so whether it's a personal car for business mileage or a company car for business mileage or a fuel card, Zetadocs supports all of them. And now we just need to put in a start point, so our office is at Equisys, which Zetadocs has suggested because it's somewhere we've used before, or the destination. So as I type in our destination, in order to streamline the submission process, Zetadocs remembers places we've previously been and suggests them as destinations. So we can just select that from one of the suggested list. If we want to calculate a return journey, just click Return Journey, and Zetadocs will calculate that automatically for you in this distance box here. Looking down, we can see the route that Google has suggested and calculated out for us to and from our destination. Scrolling down further, we can see the appropriate mileage rate, the appropriate expense amount that this user is going to be reimbursed for, and the relevant VAT rate that we as the organization can reclaim for this particular mileage claim. Scrolling down further, we can add in any respective notes or put in any respective dimensions, jobs, or tasks against this particular mileage claim. Clicking Save, we've now created the two expenses that we want to submit for approval. To submit those for approval, all we need to do is select New Report, select Expense Report, and Zetadocs will bring you through to a new draft report, which will have the current calendar month selected as the period start and end dates. We can now need to pop in a little bit of a description. So for instance, here we can say autumn events, November 2020, and that just provides a little bit of context as to why we may be submitting these particular expenses. To add those expenses onto this report, we just need to click the plus button at the top right-hand corner of the screen, and that will bring up all the expenses that we have created for this particular period. Adding them to the expense report, we can see them down here at the very bottom. We can see that we've got both a mileage expense and a payment expense on the same expense report, so you can submit all sorts of expenses on the same report without the need to send a separate report for each. Clicking Submit, once we're happy, Zetadocs will select the default approver and processor that has been set up for this particular user. So Zetadocs has noticed that Kevin is David's manager, so he's been selected as the first approver, and April has been selected as the default approver because she's the finance manager in charge of David. If we need to add an additional approver, we just tap the extra approver button, and that will allow us to select an additional approver if we so wish. Clicking Submit, Zetadocs will then move this expense report on to our manager, Kevin, who will receive an email or a push notification on his mobile device. So let's move over to Kevin now and see how he sees things. We can see here that Zetadocs has sent us through an email notification, and we can see here the description that we did, who has assigned this report to us, and a bit of a task history from the email. Zetadocs will also send us a push notification via the app if we're using that on our mobile device. Clicking View Approval, Zetadocs will log us into the Expenses portal using our work email. So Zetadocs Expenses fully integrates with your single sign-on system, so you don't have to remember all sorts of different passwords. You just need to remember one. From here, we can approve the expense report as a whole, delegate it to a different manager, or reject the expense report as a whole. Or if we want to go into each line level, we can click on each expense and view a side-by-side comparison of the receipt that's been provided as well as the expense claim. From here, we can approve each individual expense on a line level, or edit the expense, or reject individual lines on the expense report without rejecting the entire report. Clicking Approve will move it on to the next item on the list, or if it's the last item, will then take us back to the report home screen. Going to the mileage expense here, we can see a side-by-side comparison of the mileage claim as well as the route that Google has calculated for us. Clicking Approve, we can now see that both these expenses have been approved and have been changed to the status approved, so we can move on to the next process and approve the expense report as a whole. Clicking Approve, Zetadocs will then bring us up an action box, allowing us to put in a comment if we need to provide any additional context to any of these expenses, but we can leave it blank if we wish. Clicking Approve, that is our job done as Kevin, as the approver. We've made sure that each of those expenses were valid business expenses, and we've approved them because they both were. The expense report has now moved on to our processor, April, who is monitoring the portal like an absolute hawk because she knows that this is month end. We can see here that she's now been assigned a new task, just like Kevin has been. So clicking on the task and then clicking on the task from the task list, Zetadocs will take you through to the relevant expense report. We can see a full task history of this particular expense report, and just like Kevin, can approve the report as a whole, delegate or reject the report as a whole, or go line by line to check each individual expense there to make sure it's all above board and all valid business expenses. She can also edit or reject these expenses as well. So if she wants to change any of the relevant GL codes or dimensions or what have you, she can do so before exporting to Business Central. Once April is happy, or once the processor is happy, all she needs to do to export the report to Business Central is click the Approve button, add the option of putting in an approval comment. So for instance here, we can put in all good to export. And once we click Approve, Zetadocs will communicate with Business Central and raise an unposted purchase invoice for us automatically without the need to rekey anything. Clicking refresh here, we can see the expense report that we've just created and gone through the approval process has been generated here. Clicking into the report, we can see that the export was successful and the purchase invoice number has been generated here. So copying that across to our Business Central system, if we search that purchase invoice number, we can see the unposted purchase invoice has been raised automatically for us without the need for any rekeying, and we can see that has been raised here. That's the submission process from start to finish. So from creation, submission, approval, and processing through to export to Business Central. But that's not all you get with Zetadocs Expenses. You also get full integration with Power BI or Microsoft Excel for reporting purposes. So popping into one of our reports here, we can see the default template that we provide free of charge. So on a home view, we can see a bit of a breakdown about the expenditure as a whole. We can also break it down onto department. So comparing department upon department, you can have a monthly breakdown to compare month on month for different financial years, or you can break it down onto submitter in order to utilize it for fraud detection. That is part of the product offering for Zetadocs Expenses. So from creation, submission, through to approval and export to Business Central, as well as the reporting aspect of Zetadocs Expenses, you get all of it when utilizing Zetadocs Expenses Essentials. If you have any more questions or want to see an in-person demonstration, please feel free to contact Dynamics Consultants and they'll be sure to get you in touch. I'll now pass you on to Martin to finish off the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Alistair. Now, of course, we're going to tell you how great our software is. So to provide some balance, have a look at what one of our customers has had to say about working with us. As you can see, Pete Hughes, the CFO at a Zetadocs Expenses customer called PX Tech, gave the software a 10 out of 10 rating, which is not too bad, I'm sure you'll agree. It's now time to reveal details of the offer we mentioned earlier. As a thank you for attending these sessions, we are delighted to offer you 50% off the cost of implementing the Essentials edition of Zetadocs Expenses. This offer is only available for attendees of this webinar, so it really is an exclusive deal. To take advantage of it, you'll need to place your order with Dynamics Consultants before the 21st of December. You won't need to implement it right away, but the order does need to be in before Christmas. This is a helpful cost saving and one we are happy to offer in light of the financial challenges brought on over the last few months. Have a chat with your account manager at Dynamics Consultants to find out more. So now I'm going to wrap up this part of the webinar and pass back to Jesse for the Q&A. Thank you.